Good morning and welcome to week 4 of summer school. Thank you so much for being here. We are live in Bacalar, Quintana Roo, southern Mexico, and my name is Sasha. I am your green goddess here to bring you the next installment of the summer school prep sessions for the Hero's Journey Masterclass, which will be going full on, full throttle in October. Let's just do a little quick recap, first of all, about where we've been on the journey so far. I hope the sound is going to be okay for everybody. I hope you can hear me. We've got a little bit of outside noise today. There's people, workmen working in the street down the road, and which is quite, important at the moment. There's been a few big thunderstorms which have left some houses without power on a couple of occasions, and so there's some really good fixer-up work going on, which always happens really quickly around here, but it just happens all the time. And then maybe some other amazing outside noise that is just normal around here. So anyway, little quick recap on where we have been. So we started in week 1 with the underlying theory of my whole piece of research that has gone into making this course, which was the as above, so below. My thesis, my theory on us being our human bodies being a direct reflection of the planets in our solar system, and also a direct reflection of the Earth itself in the way that we are all made up of and operate through the same 5 elements. That was Jade Tablet number 1. Jade Tablet number 2 was indeed my illustrated birth chart, the Game of Destiny. Jade Tablet number 3 was my beautiful 15th zodiac wheel, aka Old Rulers. And today, if you've been checking your agenda, we're going to be looking at Jade Tablet number 4. This is where stuff starts to get really, really cool, in my opinion. This was where I had fallen down some majorly deep rabbit holes and turned up with just treasure and gems and gold and silver of all kinds. And I realized at that point that I was building something far greater than the individual tablets up to this point, or even an individual idea, that everything was starting to clearly be weaving together, or had always been woven together, and I was now starting to navigate the patterns and the symbology and through the mythology and the stories that were coming through me, both in my research but also in myself as a human being living on this planet, going through these experiences and I've become quite masterful through this work at learning to look at myself in the mirror, be able to sit in quiet reflection, quiet contemplation, and just be real with myself, real with what was going on inside me, what was going on around me, and how I truly felt and processed all of that. And I think by doing that has led me on this incredible journey of being able to now, because I've really looked with intent to focus and explore on these different levels of myself, it's given me what I would definitely associate with the 5D, is this sort of aerial view, helicopter view of being able to see the big picture on numerous different levels. And then that's something I can project outwards. It's not just inside me within my energetic field. It's something that I've now sort of risen through the ranks of being able to see that in other situations around me. So it's allowed me to both compartmentalize and see things for what they are rather than how they might appear to me, which is a very special, unique skill that we all need to master if we're ever going to get out of the matrix, right? If we're ever going to be free range. So I'm going to basically take you through how all of my development of the previous jade tablets and my research up to this point had now led me to sort of have like a record. I felt like perhaps Thoth, you know, with his writings, he would write on tablets just like this. They're illustrated as a little bit smaller than this, but he was writing, you know, using handwriting, pencil to paper, pen to paper. And that was the key around being able to transmute energy, transmit ideas, communicate that which was coming through him in a way that could be explained and visualized to other people that might have shared a language. Let's look at Egypt, for instance. They might have shared a common language with which to speak to the people. But it may be that the common folk, like the lower classes, didn't have anything like an education, have the means, the skill, the ability for reading and writing. There may not have even been a system of writing which one could learn unless you were in these higher echelons, these mystery schools, unless you were going through some kind of initiation or on a path of science, alchemy, discovery, spirituality that would give you access to writings from other cultures, scriptures or artifacts, for instance. And so really writing and reading and being able to communicate and receive ideas from others was very much something reserved, preserved, protected for those in a very small circle, a very elite circle. Indeed, some of those circles had to become secret societies like the Illuminati, because forwarding ideas in science and discovery and astronomy and cosmology was a crime punishable by being burned at the stake in medieval times. And so, you know, in the Renaissance times, taking, you know, Rome, Italy as a particular area where these things were happening, but there were pockets of this happening in every culture around the world. So the pursuit of science, the pursuit of knowledge in its core form was outlawed. It was illegal, prohibited, because it ran against what the Holy Roman Empire were trying to persuade and force through their narrative. A very strong, very powerful, very, you know, medieval set of ways that they went through that they went about that. So my point of saying all of this is that, first of all, people didn't have a language for communicating. And so symbols became the lifeblood. They became how we recognized what we saw in nature over and over again, how we could speak about it, how we could pass knowledge backwards and forwards between each other and retain that knowledge over seasons, over years, over decades, over centuries, over eons, as in the case of Thoth. And so I believe that Thoth wasn't simply responsible for the later forms of the written word, the hieroglyphics, different mediums of communication. I believe they were probably his later works that built upon his earlier ideas. But what was true for me as I've been going through this is it's that these symbols that resonate through thousands and thousands and thousands of years, and that's probably putting it mildly. We're probably talking 50,000, 70,000, 400,000 years. I'm certainly not going to put like a sort of early marker. I certainly know, and sorry if this disproves what your history or your education books from school told you, we certainly didn't stumble out of the caves 6,000 years ago as hunter-gatherers. That really is a myth that we have been forced to believe. And these symbols, these writings, these original tablets, not these per se, but the original emerald tablets, the stela that have been left behind ancient civilizations, they contain these symbols, and they predate, you know, we're finding that everything we find predates something else. You know, we're moving backwards and backwards into this space that was considered void, that it wasn't even a void. It didn't happen. It was considered that it just didn't exist. Now we're realizing that everything had an origin. Everything came from somewhere before. It didn't just all suddenly, you know, appear out of nothing. But these symbols are that testament. They're a testimony to that past that existed, because these symbols are still relevant. They still mean the same thing that they meant however long ago. They still vibrate and resonate with the same emotion and frequency in our bodies. They still reflect the sky that we can see as far as the solar system, the constellations, the movements of the earth, the sun and the moon. They still reflect, or are starting to show us how they reflect, the chakras that exist in our body. We've been looking at 9 chakras in this course, and I'm going to keep it, you know, snugly based around that formula, because that's what's useful and tangible for us. There are other chakras that I'll talk to you about, chakras in our eyes. We have a chakra in our left eye and a chakra in our right eye. We have chakras in our ears as well. We have ear gates. You know, we have not just the instruments in our ear, the eardrum, in order to receive sound, but we have filters and special locks with keys that allow us to receive different kinds of information from different fields of energy once your body is sort of cleansed to a point where you can receive that kind of information. Until your body is ready and your consciousness is ready to receive that information, you wouldn't be able to process it. It wouldn't make sense. It wouldn't have a base of reference. That's why awakening is a journey, because everything you go through teaches you something about the road to come. It teaches you a little bit about where you've come from and the lessons that you've learned, maybe the times you've fallen over, fallen back, maybe the time you just went completely off course. But it also can show you how you got back on track. And if you can retain those nuggets, then you actually go forward into the next journey stronger and bigger and better and badder than you were on your last whatever that page of the story is for you, whether it was yesterday, whether it was last month, whether it was your last birthday, whether it was the day your children were born, whether it was the last 43 years of your life. We are all writing our own story, and that's why it's only relevant to you how these symbols are perceived. Everything is an individual, intimate journey, but at the same time, it's universal. These symbols are meaningful in the human world, the animal world, the astro world. And on one level, they all mean the same to everybody. They all hold a unique sovereign power that exists within the planet or the luminary or the zodiac or the constellation or the star system that they represent. That's their physical reality. The symbol is like their signature, okay? I, as Sasha, am so much more than my signature on the page, so much more than even one doodled tablet, perhaps. So I'm just putting that distance between the actual thing of Jupiter. The actual planet Jupiter is always represented by this one that looks like a 4. A 4 with a little curly hat. And it's not a coincidence that Saturn, that sits next to Jupiter in the solar system, it's over here on this side, looks a bit like a 5. We'll probably explore that in another one, in another story. But anyway, this is the symbol. So for, you know, it's about, this is its stamp, this is its signature down here for us, but it has remained universal, remained constant by its simplicity, by the fact that it's different from other things, different but still recognizable over time, regardless of whatever culture you're born into, whatever language, whatever language, like my throat chakra is getting all like whoopsie-doo, because I've been talking about Saturn, who rules the throat chakra. But Jupiter rules the solar plexus chakra, so my solar plexus power is always there to back up my throat chakra. I'm back in the room. I'm getting hot, but that's Mexican heat for you. Excuse me while I have a little bit of water. It's a little message from Spirit. Need to balance my water and my fire. Okay. So, symbology exists. It exists at a universal level. It exists at an intimate, independent, individual level. And it all holds meaning. I think that's the thing to remember. These aren't sort of pretty pictures just to keep people entertained. They had meaning, they had power, they were used with function. They were there to remind people about the harvest, the moon cycles that were there to guide the whole history of agriculture. The movement of the tides, the precession of the equinoxes, all of this has been symbolized through icons, little pictures, little images, and images for the sun, the moon, and the earth, which I may not have actually... Oh yeah, of course I did. I put it there. Appear repeatedly, over and over and over again in every culture, in every part of this planet. These same symbols start to appear, which offers different explanations. But there is the obvious explanation that peoples in every part of the world once had a common origin, and so they brought that knowledge with them as they moved through the planet. And for me, the most likely example of that happening was following the Great Deluge, the Great Flood, whereby people managed to escape from Atlantis as it fell into the sea on vessels such as Noah's Ark, and those survivors of Atlantis repopulated all around the planet, wherever there was a mountain range that a boat could safely, and we're talking, high at the top of the mountain range, because the waters had risen so much. That's why many of these indigenous populations and civilizations built or had appeared to build cities at the top of mountain ranges, like the Himalayas, like Machu Picchu in Peru. But the truth is actually the seas were much higher in after the flood, and it was many decades, maybe longer, before the seas receded, and then people started to walk down the mountains and make villages and populations expand lower down. But that's why they're all so high. So that's one idea. The other idea is that, and I believe that these are run in parallel and they're not mutually exclusive, but these are all collective archetypes, that all of these archetypes actually resonate within us at some level, at the unconscious or subconscious, below the surface, below what we're really, we don't know why we know it, we just know we know it. We don't know, we might not know what it means, but we know it's relevant. We know it means something. And that's quite important. You might see 1,000, 10,000 different images, different visions, different glances in a day. But something like this, if you're attuned to it and open to it, will be a symbol that will stand out from the crowd. It will stand out against everything else, and it will jog you to ponder on it. It might not tell you what it is or what it means in that moment, but it will stay burned like an emblem in your mind, almost like it's lighting up in your mind, almost like we have like a circuit board with all of these on, and when you see one, that place in your sort of consciousness of time flashes on like like it recognizes its mate. So you'll have to tell me in the comments what you think your ideas are about how these symbols have made it through time and been timeless and retained their meaning. But let's look at what some of these actually mean as far as me. So this is my chart, my birth chart, pulled into what you might have recognized as a tarot card. This is a really large tarot card. And I say that because those of you in the tarot world might know this. Some of you might be just catching on now to why I'm saying this. We've got Scorpio, Aquarius, Leo, and Taurus. These are the 4 fixed signs of the zodiac. The zodiac being 12 signs. We have 3 mutable, we have 3 cardinal, and we have 3 fixed. 4 fixed. 3 of each element. So for the fixed signs for air, we have Aquarius. Fixed signs for water is Scorpio. Fixed signs for fire is Leo. And fixed sign for earth signs is Taurus. This idea of there being an element represented in each quarter of the map or the card is resonant with the idea of a pattern that exists in tarot. And I'll show you here. Let me just grab something. Now, I'll show you quickly. So Thoth Tarot actually has these in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of his cards. Now, Thoth didn't design this tarot. It was channeled by Aleister Crowley, great occultist from England. And he brought forward, he channeled this beautiful deck, solely known as the Thoth Tarot. And I never knew this, but I never knew it was so threaded in Thoth until I was looking into this. But if you look at every other tarot deck, you know, to a large extent, some people haven't really gone that way, but there is a real beautiful thread of in the world card and the universe as it is in Thoth and the Wheel of Fortune. You'll always find 4 creatures in the corner. So this is the universe by Thoth. There is an eagle representing, hang on, let me show you against this. Okay. So we have an eagle representing Scorpio. So Scorpio is represented by the eagle, the phoenix, and the scorpion, but it's almost always coming through as an eagle, which for me is very resonant as the scorpions have such sort of control over the sky. Sky is kind of like one of their elements, even though they're Scorpio and they're considered water, they are actually, from an Anunnaki perspective, beings of flight. And we'll come on to the Anunnaki in a moment. So we then have the bull representing Taurus. We have the eagle in that corner representing Scorpio. We have the man in this corner who represents either an angel or a man, a giant man, as we'll see. And then we have, sorry, I pointed to the wrong one. This is the Leo, this is the lion Leo, and this is the bull. And then you have the beautiful ether wrapped around the woman as a snake with that eye coming out, sort of like the ether, the intuition, the third eye, all wrapped together. And this, for me, has led me to this understanding that all of these elements are webbed together, woven together in our bodies, that we are all at the core, made up of these 5 elements. And these 5 elements have all come through in each of us, but they bring all these different capabilities, these different abilities, and clearly a lot of different characteristics and ways of being in the world, different morals, different customs. You know, people would know Well, let me take you through the elements, because I've actually included a couple more elements on here to pick up on the fact that the Chinese, in the Chinese culture, ancient China, they actually had 7 elements that they worked with, and working with the elements was very important for the Chinese. They included wood or tree and metal as well as air, water, fire, and earth. So and ether, which, you know, is the middle essence that connects all things, that invisible essence that moves everything, moves through everything and moves everything. It makes the it makes the inanimate object an animagus. So the Chinese actually realized that there was far more power even than the rest of the world had done by only really picking up on the 5 elements. But we haven't really explored that as a science, as a practice, as an art in the way that the Chinese have done. They've had thousands of years of recorded written history about the way in which they were able to harness the power of nature, the power of plants, and tap into the powers that different elements held. So let me just put on my little fan. Hopefully it won't be too loud. Okay. Because it is super hot. Thank you. Thank you for your patience. Okay. So we have, to show you the symbols for the elements, and I've done this through my chart. Okay, so my birth chart is how I've explored and arisen. Yeah, how I've arisen. I was going to say how I've arrived at these ideas. But all of this, is not meant to be a class on astrology. I'm not trying to teach you astrology because there are lots of amazing places that you can find that information, and far greater astrologists than me. I certainly could not give you that kind of overview. There's just so much to learn about astrology. The sky is a big place. But what I would suggest to you is do it the way I've done it and learn astrology and cosmology and the planets through looking at your own specific chart. Those handful of symbols and associations that you have with the cosmos that are uniquely yours and come from your birth chart or can be seen in your birth chart. They exist out here in the real world, in the solar system and on the earth. But, like Morpheus says, the matrix cannot tell you who you are. You have to see it for yourself. So you have to see it for yourself. You have to see yourself in the cosmos. You have to see your place in the world. Where do you fit? And if you can understand that you have deep, deep origins with things, ideas, peoples, planets, ancestors that were here millennia before you, and somehow their DNA, their blood, their ideas, their stories have filtered down into having meaning for you today, then that's something really unique that's never going to be the same for anyone but you. That's your personal story, and it's magical. It's magical, and you being here on this planet right now is a testimony that you're now carrying forward a little piece of everybody that's come before you in your family. Even if you didn't know anyone, even if you never knew your grandparents, even if you never knew your parents, that's not for everyone. So it doesn't matter if you didn't know them. They exist in your DNA, they exist in your blood, they exist in the way you laugh, the kinds of things that you find funny, they exist in your love of food or... Oh, that's okay. That's all right. 3444. They exist in your connection to music. They exist in the way you dance. the kinds of things that you like in art, in nature, in anything really, you will feel, what you feel will be a patchwork kaleidoscope from all of those that came before you. And I feel so enriched now that I've started to learn those stories and those songs of my ancient peoples. And they've been, they've been delighted to be contacted, and they've given me all this extra information about other people's stories and other people's, like, my planets, saying, hey, come and meet my neighbor. He's got stories for you too. And that's, these are real personalities out in the universe, and they really want to talk. They really want to get to know you, and they leave their symbols, they leave their messages as an invitation, as a little clue, inviting you to look into it. Whether that you look into, some people, they get these sorts of symbols tattooed on their body. Some people make great pieces on their wall at home. Some people make a tarot deck. Some people might just look at the image and go on Google and find out what it means for them, find out what it means to these ancient peoples. And they might just find that they were supposed to see that symbol at that point because it led them to something else. It unlocked another door that they didn't even know was there. And that's the magic of this work. There are treasures to be found, but you have to go looking for them. You have to be a willing participant on the journey. You can't be a passenger. You can't just be looking over someone else's shoulder or being like a terrible backseat driver, got all the worst advice, but you're not actually sitting in the driver's seat taking the responsibility for the journey. You're just moaning and whinging and actually making things more difficult. So for those around you and for yourself, because this is a very primal journey that you have to step out onto. It reminds me of a quick story that I'll share when we get to the hero's journey. But a little quick note about the Knights Templar, the Knights of the Round Table. King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, they created between themselves a very sacred code. They were all tasked with going out into the world to search for the four hallows. That they were searching for the hallows. Now, each of the hallows represented an element of nature. So you'll all have heard about the Holy Grail, okay? Presumably a cup. Now that Holy Grail represents Scorpio. It represents water. It has many other representations, which we don't need to touch on here. I'm just saying that as far as the Knights of the Round Table were concerned, the Holy Grail was water. That was the cup. And, in tarot, cups represent water. They represent the emotional realm. Excalibur for King Arthur represented the sword. It represented air. The wand, Merlin's wand, was the wand of the fire signs in tarot. And the stone, or the black and white chessboard, represented... I'm very spiritual burpees today. There's a lot of players out here today. So thank you, Spirit, for giving me the balance. Thank you. And to not let me forget what I was saying. Stone, or the crystal, the dark crystal, or the black and white chessboard represents earth in the tarot. But for the Knights Templar, these were these holy items, hallowed items of power that they were tasked to go out into the world and discover and bring back or pull into safety, protect them. They were seen as protectors of the Holy Grail. for instance, which is probably the story most people have, aligned themselves with. Maybe they didn't know that there were these other four, that there was 4 pieces that they were supposed to be looking for. Now, at the beginning of that journey of them going out into the world to find these things, they had to sign up to an oath. And the oath was, as they left their castle at Camelot and went out into the forbidden forest outside the sort of the escarpment of their fortress, there was a big forbidden forest. And they were each required to make their own pathway into the forbidden forest. If any of the knights came upon another pathway that had already been carved, or the trees had been hacked by another knight passing through that area, or they saw footprints of another knight that had been that way already, they were not allowed to go that way. They could not follow in the footsteps of another knight. They had to make their own way into the forbidden forest. And I dare say it was probably quite hard to get in. There might have been lots of magic and protection spells and hexes or demonic creatures trying to keep them out, or trying to pull them in and never let them go, whatever it was. So the motivation and the desire to follow in someone else's footsteps, oh, well, they've carved a nice path, I'm just going to follow that path, that was wholly forbidden. And you were basically tapping out of your own journey if you did that. Like, the higher ups, the higher selves, the ascended masters would know. Merlin would know what you'd done. And any spoils or treasure or lessons, I suppose, even that I suppose lessons were probably all right, but any treasure or spoils or bounty that you found on a path that was created by somebody else, even if you managed to carry it through the forest for 10 miles, was disqualified. Okay, so the point being is that you had to carve your own path through the forest, even as you left home. Like, it was like right outside their home, where they were kings of the land. They didn't expect to necessarily have big challengers or oppressors. But this forest, this first step out onto a solo journey, was representative of the fact that they had to be their own man. They had to be their own knight. They had to be their own savior. They had to make their own way in the world. So this is metaphorical, right, for what Merlin and King Arthur was trying to inspire in their knights. That if you follow someone else's footsteps, you might not necessarily end up making the same decisions on that path, because it was never a path for you. You didn't have those same inspirations and instincts and movements and energies within inside you that previous person had. So it's never going to give you what it gave the first person or the original person. And I love that element of the story. I love that it was an oath they had to sign up to. So they were all sort of giving each other their backing straight from the off, that they had full respect, and they gave due respect where it was entitled to the right person. And it was saying that I'm not going to steal, I'm not going to pretend, I'm not going to lie, I'm not going to wear a mask. I'm going to learn these things for myself, no matter the challenge. 44:22. No matter the obstacles. And there is nothing more satisfying in this world and beyond than the fruits that you earn from your own hard labor, the puzzles you uncover from your own keen mental agility. Those successes which are truly yours will feel better than anything. They'll never feel as good Sorry, things you haven't worked hard for will never feel as good as those things that are just handed to you. Even if you won the lottery tomorrow and you were handed £10 million, if you were to make that money from your own business, even if it took you 10 years to get to this point, it's incomparable. So find your own path, carve your own path, feel inspired to make your own way in the world. Because it's always going to be tempting to follow other people. You're always going to have a lazy day when you think, oh, maybe I'll just copy someone else. Maybe I'll just cheat on the test. Maybe I'll just take that thing over there that no one seemed to be I don't know, if it doesn't belong to me, but it doesn't belong to anyone else. I'm just going to take it. You don't know what that was, what that meant to somebody else. You don't know what the story was. You don't know that maybe something shiny and glittery was left in your view just to test you, just to see how you would respond when no one else was looking, hey? The universe puts down tests and boulders for us to trip over all the time, and we really have to use all of our senses, all of our connection with nature and the elements to guide us through. And when you're coming from a true place, a pure heart, wanting to create positive energy and leave no negative energy behind you, you're going to have that sort of, you're going to have green lights all the way, because you're doing everything from a position of love. Even if it takes you way, way longer than you thought it was going to take, and even if you've got to beat off all sorts of jealous mother effers on the path, and you will, if you're doing something good, believe me, there's going to be a lot of people out there that couldn't spell oath, let alone have the integrity and sovereignty to respect someone else's journey. And that's just made me think of something really interesting. Someone that doesn't have integrity and sovereignty for themselves cannot respect the sovereignty and integrity of somebody else. They cannot see that which they are not. So for them, if what I'm trying to say is, if they had true integrity and self-love for what they felt and believed inside, it would never cross their mind to take it from someone else, because they would know what a theft that would be. They would understand, because they could empathize and be like, well, I would never want someone to take that away from me, because it's so valuable. So there's just a quick pointer as we go 48, 44. So I'm going to take you very quickly through my journey, because this is my journey at the end of the day. I hope you're going to come along and share your own journey with us too. So the reason why this is relevant to me is that, first of all, I have all 4 elements very strongly in my chart. Not just all 4 elements, but these 4 characters: Taurus, Leo, Aquarius, and Scorpio. Starting at the outset, I have a Taurus moon and a Leo Jupiter. I am Venus, Mars, and Uranus in Scorpio, and I have an Aquarius rising. Drilling down into the elements themselves, in water, I have, like I say, Scorpio, Scorpio Mars, Scorpio Venus, and Scorpio Uranus. My south node is Pisces. My my Jupiter placement in Vedic jumps to Cancer, and my Lilith is also Cancer. Black moon Lilith is Cancer. Then my air signs, I have in Vedic Mars Libra, Venus Libra, and a Libra Pluto, and that's two different symbols for Pluto in the air signs. And then my Aquarius rising is up here, shown as two little water symbols, and I use the up arrow to show rising. Coming down here into the fire, I have an Aries moon. When we jump to Vedic, I have a Leo Jupiter. Then my Neptune is in Sag, and Saturn and Mercury jump to Leo in Vedic. In Earth, I'm sorry, I've been pulling it away rather than pulling it closer to you. I will actually put up some pictures of the jade tablets on this channel. I haven't actually as of yet because I stopped at week 2 because I had an actual image of that I could share, and I put that in the comments of week 2 video. But for these, I'm going to take a little video or picture and I'll post it as a short on YouTube so that you can have a proper look at them. So Earth, we have Earth. I have Saturn Virgo, Mercury Virgo, Sun Virgo, and North Node Virgo. And then I have a Taurus moon in tropical. Going around, so that's like everybody in my particular chart. I now want to show you that there are 5 bloodlines represented through all of this work. So starting on the outward edge, we've got Draco, the star system Draco, and the bloodline coming from them is the mantis and the mantids. They are, so the praying mantis family, considered potentially one of the earliest creatures on the planet. They are found in every landmass on the planet. They are everywhere. They have been here since the beginning of time, and they offer symbolically that sense of the eye on everything, the eye of Sauron even, you know, that eye being able to scope out the land to figure out what was going to be most prosperous for new peoples coming into that area, whether it was the emergence of new peoples that have evolved, or even new peoples coming in from outside countries or even outside galaxies and star systems. They kind of would go in and do like the reconnaissance. And they represent the eye of intuition. They represent that ever-seeing eye. This symbol here for Phi, very much, and here as well, the 3 rings becoming the Vesica Pisces, both resonate with the mantis. And even for me, this resonates as a stormtrooper as well. I didn't mean to draw it like that, but that's definitely how it feels to me ever since. Okay, so that bloodline sort of represents the ether, the underlying element that was here first. Ether, Draco, the mantids. Then we have Aquarians. You remember that Aquarius and air are represented by the man or the angel in tarot. So Aquarius for me represents the giants and the Greys and the Nordics. So those peoples that lived in the very, very cold lands of Northern Europe, Scandinavia, Greenland, Iceland, and very, very tall people, potentially resonate with the Nephilim in scripture, who were the very large or giant type people. So that's the next bloodline. The Greys, the Nordics, the giants arising from the sea and having power and dominion over the sea lands. Then we have Scorpio or water represented by the Anunnaki. The Anunnaki are clearly beings of flight, but they were also beings of agriculture and the sea, and they were amphibious, so they could be sea, land, sky. And they have three avatars, as I said, through Scorpio. We have the scorpion, the phoenix, and the eagle. And I would very much say that those alliances or alignments have come through because of their connection with the Anunnaki. But even though they are Scorpio and water beings, and if you look at some of the Sumerian tablets and carvings, they were actually men with fishtails, or they were they had men's heads and men's feet, but they had like a long fish dress and fish head over the top. So even though they came out of the sea originally or had amphibious quality in the sea and the sky, for me, the sky is more prominent because there is so much connection with the stars, the planets, and with space flight. It is bejeweled across their history, their writings, their symbolism, that space flight and flying machines, and all of the animal world that represented flying machines. So bees, butterflies, birds, eagles, phoenix. If you think of a phoenix is a really big bird that burns up in a ball of flame. Well, if you think of a rocket taking off from Cape Canaveral or from SpaceX in Houston, that looks like a bird with wings taking off in a ball of flame. So more symbology for space flight connected in with the symbology of birds and how ideas are represented through time. It's not saying that it's not saying one thing or another. It's indicating what might have been, and it's up to us to make those connections and draw down what is meaningful for us. Some people might have just seen the bee and the bee goddess, even though it was a woman with wings and sitting on sort of like a bee chariot, may have just seen those as just holy, wholesome symbols about agriculture and about beekeeping and about the importance of the bee as the life giver on the planet. But that in itself is pretty fucking cool. So, but yeah, the resonance between flying machines and the Anunnaki and the Sumerians and the Babylonians cannot be ignored. And so from that perspective, they take on more of a sort of element of the sea, of the sky. Okay, let's go on to the sand people. Okay, so we've got Leo now coming from coming through as the reptilians and the Syrians. Okay, so Syrian from Sirius star system, system A, system B. I believe I'm from system B. But yeah, there is a story that we're not going to get to today, unfortunately, but it is a fairly important, crucial piece of my work and my research and my discovery that I kind of want to save for another day when we've got more time. We are now at 1 hour and 18 seconds, and it's summer school, so we're just going to be cool. We're just going to leave it as the explanation. I won't tell you the story of Lilith and the devil in the Garden of Eden today, but please do check in for it on another session, because, baby, we're going to get to it. We're going to get to it. You know me, I love to talk, and 1 hour for these is, you know, I did tell you it was going to be a bit of a down the rabbit hole today. So let's keep going. The next bloodline is the reptilians, representing fire and actually sort of coming through as the sand people, Syrians, and also Sirius being Sirius and Canis Major actually being sort of very similar in their star systems, in that they connect dogs and cats together. So even canine, we expect canine to be related to dogs. Actually, canines represent the whole animal kingdom as far as cats and dogs are concerned. So the big cats are all in the Canis Major star system, if that makes sense. On to Taurus, the Pleiadians. Taurus, the earth angels, the earth goddesses of the Pleiades, represent the next bloodline, and they represent the soil. And obviously Taurus is an amazing symbol for that, you know, the ultimate Apis bull symbology in Egypt, in Atlantis, in every major culture that has ever got into agriculture, understands the symbology of the bull, the Taurus, El Toro. And the Taurus bull is seen, imprinted and painted across the walls of so many ancient caves in the Basque country, which is my heritage. Even so far as the actual Taurus constellation drawn onto these cave paintings alongside pictures of the bull in different phases of the seasons and the agricultural harvest. So, and these are, I think those are 36,000 years old, those paintings. Those paintings at Lascaux, if you want to go and have a look at that, it's Lascaux in the Basque region. That's Lascaux, the Lascaux caves. And they're absolutely beautiful. So we've now got 5 bloodlines, okay? We've got the Mantis, who are the ether, the element of ether from Draco. We've got the Pleiadians from the Pleiades, representing Earth. We've got the Reptilians, or the Syrians, from Sirius, from Canis Major, representing Leo, representing the fire signs and the fire energy. Then we've got the Anunnaki, representing water, representing sky, and embodying those 3 Scorpio avatars of the Phoenix, the Eagle, and the Scorpion. And the other bloodline being the Greys, the Nordics, the Giants, possibly the Nephilim. And there is definitely more I could go into today. I'm not sure how far we want to go. I'm going to talk to you about the bloodlines a little bit more. And I might just whiz through the symbols as they are. But let's keep it, as I say, I'm not going to get into the the more magical story behind it. Looking at this, we've got G, A, C, T. G for Giants, A for Anunnaki, C for Canis Major, T for Taurus. These letters, G, A, C, T, are also the 4 letters of our DNA. Our DNA is made up of combinations of these 4 letters, only these 4, G, A, T, C. If you know the film Gattaca, the title is made up of these letters only, and that's all about genetics and cloning. So for me, it's given me this knowledge that we've had all of these different elements, originally individual families. You know, the ether holds it all together, which is why perhaps you don't see. Oh, that's so weird. I literally just saw ether would become the equal sign. Okay. So ether, you could actually run a line through that and it would look like the sign for phi. So ether becomes the equal sign because ether is what connects everything. It's what ties everything together. It's what makes things make sense. And the equal sign is what makes things make sense. Okay. So G for Giants, A for Anunnaki, C for Canis Major, T for Taurus. Once upon a time, original families, original different groups from different star systems that seeded our planet have over millennia and millennia of intermarital, interculture, copulation and baby making and populations intermingling. We now have our DNA as a representation of all these bloodlines, all connected at the heart, all connected, even though they might have come from different galaxies, different parts of our galaxy, different aspects of this planet, different aspects of other planets, maybe. They are all coming now into a unified whole in us. So even if they were separate parts once upon a time, and they are vying for position in our consciousness, they are also working as a team on our behalf. They are all coming through, recognizing that they are stronger as a unit, they are stronger as a whole. We are stronger because we have this like combined immunity, you know. Yeah, I don't know what I was going to say then. Anyway, so this is part of my theory of why our DNA is the way it is, how it is that information can be coded from thousands or even millions of years before, how it can actually be resonant in my blood today. And as far as my chart is concerned, when I look at my actual birth chart and the reality of who I am, I have a beautiful spread across these 4, not only these 4 signs, I'm balanced in all the elements, and I've also been able to tap into individuals and concepts and thought forms that resonate from these bloodlines and how and what they want us to know about the planetary chakra alignment. Because this is kind of what they're all trying to tell us. They're all trying to show us this wonderful swirling soup here. And they all come at it from very different angles, but they all form part of something which is far greater and far more majestical. So to quickly go through, this is the chakras done like the tree of life. Okay, so I've done them in the order of the tree of life, but it's like a human body as well. So rather than the chakras going all the way down through the middle of the body, this is a fiocus, this is us, if you like, in the middle. I've done them as the tree of life, so you can see them as like guardians, almost surrounding the human body. And it gives them a little bit more reality in the fact that they're all in a tractor beam orbit of the sun, going around the sun in the same order forever and ever and ever. So if you remember back to week 1, we looked at the Hermetic principles and how they resonate down the human body. So I won't go back through it very, very long, but just to say we have 1 represented by Phi. We have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, showing the same process, those same principles apply at every level of the universe. We're just going through 1, 11, 11. Exciting. Right. At the top then, this represents Tiamat and Draco coming through as an additional planet, which is why I've put it at the top, okay? Because it's actually on the outer layer. So it's a planet that has sort of been cast out of the original group, but actually holds the sovereign power right at the top. So we've got also representing Neptune, who had the same thing done to her. Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto have been excluded from a great many explorations into astrology and cosmology. And it's very much my plan to bring them back. So Tiamat and Neptune sitting up here. These are the original sorts of symbols for the chakras as well. But there, I'll show you them as the planets. The image is the chakra sort of sacred geometry that goes with it. So we have Neptune, Mercury, the Sun, Saturn, Jupiter, Venus, the Moon, Pluto, and Mars, Ophiuchus, the Earth. Here we have the asteroid goddesses, who were the remaining parts of Tiamat after she was destroyed. And then we have South Node, North Node of the Moon, and Dark Moon Lilith. Some other areas hugely important to our life purpose, our mission, our destiny, and often overlooked to your detriment, I might say, my dears. Oh, and because Uranus sits out here on the outer ring, they also look after the bioelectromagnetic field. And we've got Uranu here, or Uranus with the blue S at the end, and that represents the scales. The scales as in the octave of 8 notes on a scale of music, which is the vibration of the planets. They do all resonate with an octave. And so, yeah, there's quite a few planets that have extraordinary power and influence in our lives, which have been ignored, erased, disempowered. And I believe that by recognizing them, bringing them back into a place where we can worship, praise, and acknowledge them, their powers will become available to us again. Ophiuchus's symbol is here. Ophiuchus represented here, living large And these are the 4 points or 4 processions of the equinoxes of our planet Earth. So we would have the winter solstice, the spring equinox, the summer solstice, the autumnal equinox. As you can see, I always try and bring it back into that layering, that tier system of the human body, the earth, the planets, and how do they interrelate. So I hope you've enjoyed this little journey into my mind and into the rabbit hole that has taken this journey onto a whole new intergalactic journey and mission. I hope I've inspired you to look for some symbols that you've learned about today and find out what they mean to you. I will be back next Tuesday with week 5. Week 5, we're going to be looking at the Tree of Life. So again, pulling through those connections and evidence of how these ancient arcane systems of alchemy, magic, occultism, and wisdom are still living large and playing hard in our corner. And I hope you learned something new that you liked today. Please do remember to subscribe and like this video as you leave today. And please do consider sending a donation if anything has resonated with you in this lesson or in the previous groups. Please do send a donation. You will be helping me and this mission, take this intergalactic one more time. My donation page is paypal.me/Bloom Healing. I have been your goddess. Thank you so much for listening. And I will see you next week, Tuesday, 10 o'clock EST. Be good to yourselves and have a beautiful day or beautiful evening wherever you are.